Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm the owner-operator of a privately owned welding business in Grootly-Logger, Tennessee. And a number of welders and people across the United States and even overseas have contacted me about going offshore as a welder and other positions also. Until recently, I used to personally engage myself in a more personal way of trying to help people get employment offshore that wanted to go work offshore. But because of a bad incident that recently took place with someone, I have disengaged myself from that, except I can help people go to work offshore if you're still interested, but only by way and means of a publication that I have personally authored that I sell on eBay. And it's mostly geared for welders, but other people also who want to go offshore. It gives them a knowledge that they will need, too, a base knowledge that they will need of what they need, 70 different companies to apply to, and what they need to do to prepare themselves before going offshore. Over 30 years ago, I first entered into the offshore welding field. I had graduated from 2 junior colleges, and I also went to a 3rd welding school. And I had got my B31.3 6G pipe certification. I went to work for, I think it was, since it's been over 30 years ago now. The first one was Gulf Oil Company I was sent out for. Then I was sent out for Chevron. Then I was sent out to Marathon. Then I was sent out to Otoco, and then I was sent out to Shell Oil Company. So I had been with 5 different major oil companies. Different marine contractors out of Golden Meadow and Venice, Louisiana used to send me offshore and fly me out there, and they'd fly me from platform to platform to do maintenance work. And over 30 years ago, my salary, and I don't say this vainglorious or in a way of being a proud braggart or anything like that, but over 30 years ago, I was blessed to make more than what most welders make now. And it's not because my hourly wage was so extremely high, even though it was higher than inland jobs that I used to weld on, but it was because of all the hours. Usually people who go offshore are guaranteed 84 hours a week. That's 44 hours a week overtime. Now I realize that there's times and seasons where inland jobs offer that on shutdowns where they'll work you 7/12s, and but that's a hit and miss deal. I mean, it comes and goes. But offshore, there's a lot of work offshore even now, and the reason why I wrote this book after so many years, I wish I would have wrote it sooner, is because over the years, every time I'd come in and do an inland job, as soon as other welders would find out that I had worked offshore, they would just come from different parts of the floor throughout the factory, and they'd say, "Look, man, we heard that you worked offshore. What do we have to do to go offshore?" Well, there's a few things you do have to do to go offshore, and now it's changed since 30 years ago. 30 years ago, you had to sign an affidavit stating that you'd never had back surgery before. If you had back surgery over 30 years ago, you never went offshore. They would not chance it because the insurance companies that insured them for workman's comp, they did not want to cover anybody that had ever had back surgery. But you didn't even have to take a physical. You just had to sign an affidavit stating that you had never had back surgery. But nowadays, if you want to go offshore, you will have to take a physical. You will have to take a drug test. Usually, you will not always have to have a TWIC card. That's a Transportation Workers Identity Credential Card, which means you will be fingerprinted and you will have a background check by the FBI. Ever since 9/11, see, a lot of the criteria has changed to go to work offshore. When welders are hired offshore, with the exception of one time years ago when I went on an extreme pipe job for Otoco Oil Company because there was going to be so many offsets and fittings, pipe fitting that was going to involve right angle trigonometry, and they presumed that most welders did not advance to that level to be a fitter that good, so they sent a separate crew of fitters out. But usually when you go offshore, you have to be both a welder and a fitter. The irony of it is, even though you have to have a B31.3 6G certification, chances of ever welding a piece of pressure pipe is zilch to none. Usually what you do offshore is you weld a lot of handrails. Within 1 month's time offshore, you should be an expert on how to weld handrails. And usually all that's done with a 6010 5P plus rod. But anyway, they still want you to be certified 6G in case a pressure pipe goes out or you have to tie into a line. They want you to be able to cut it, fit it, grind it, groove it, put it together, good fit, weld it out, and they will x-ray it. They will ship whenever there's pressure pipe offshore. Those rigs cost $100 million or more. They do not chance any welder slipping through the cracks. They boat a lab out there. They pick it up with a crane, put it on the top deck, and every weld you make will be x-rayed. But anyway, to try to make a long story short, I only have a few more minutes when making this video here. Over the years, so many welders have asked me over and over, and you do get a little weary just going through everything, telling people what they have to do, and nowadays you even have to have some companies want you to have a Hewitt card, a helicopter underwater emergency training card. Many years ago, I was sent out to Venice by Arrow Contractors. I don't think they're still in business today. They sent me out for Marathon Oil Company, but the welder before me, he crashed in the helicopter. He lived through it, but he lost his toolbox. So now they want you to have a Hewitt card. They want you to have a TWIC card. They want you to be B31.3 certified. And you've got to have those papers with you, especially for Chevron. When you get off the helicopter, they take your papers. They examine them. And nowadays, of course, they go on the computer. They like for you to be AWS welding inspector stamped approved on those papers, and that way they can go online. They can see who certified you. They can give them a call to make sure you just didn't have some friend make up some phony papers to get out there. And after all that, after you're welding for 30 minutes, they will watch your weld. And if your weld don't look too good, it doesn't matter what type of paper pedigree you have, they're sending you in. You're not going to remain offshore welding. You get 84 hours a week. It's only one trip out there, one trip back, saves on gas. The food's really good. And if you could work as a welder offshore for probably 2 years, you should have already your house paid for, your vehicle paid for, your own business in your backyard. You should be doing good. If your health holds out and everything falls just into place for you, 2 years offshore is really about all you need. And that's all you will want, because even though well, I say that now, I'm a little on up in age, but when I was younger, I used to look forward to 18 hours a day, 126 hours a week. Great big checks and stuff. But anyway, until recently, a lot of people have contacted me. They sent me resumes and all that. You don't have to do that. The only thing that I am engaging myself in to help you get offshore is by way and means of education, excuse me, through the Welder's Offshore Guide. And so this here will tell you the welding test, how to set it up, the groove, the gap, everything. It'll tell you how to get certified without ever going back to welding school, how to contact a welding inspector to do your paperwork for you and everything after he examines your weld. It tells you every tool that you're going to need, what type of clothes to wear. It goes into every little meticulous detail to help you get offshore and not go out there and be a hit and miss and just realize that you didn't wear the right shoes or you didn't bring the right clothes and you forgot a sliding T-bevel while just going out there without that one tool. You wish that you wouldn't have went out there. So there's a lot of things. I was fortunate years ago.